Good morning, everyone. So today again we will resume with the session of Indian Express. So you see that yesterday we were not able to take the session, so we are taking a session together of 14th and 15th October due to some unfortunate circumstances. Yesterday's session was postponed, but don't worry about it. We will be just taking the session and we are covering the whole news together. So on that pretext, we will start with the topic, which are unfortunately, there is no topic in the section 1 today and section 4 today, but yes, the news are well covered. Don't worry about that. Now hijab issue is the first topic. Though it is in the developing phase, yes, but some issues are always important and some parts of it can be covered. Moreover, is it the judgment? We will not go into the depth of the judgment, but there are some issues. For example, the judgment which came on some particular case, so that case has to be understood in that pretext. Further, Babau to Karmyogi, though a very minor topic in this case, but yes, it is related with the change in the perception of the civil servant, and though not much is there, but some steps are taken so that this perception can be changed, and it is all about that. Further, meaningful legal aid, though an important topic in this case, but there are so many problems, and one such problem was highlighted by a court in particular when the rarest of the rare criteria was not fulfilled, and even though, so the punishment, life in prison punishment has been commuted, the capital punishment has been commuted. So this is related with that. Now this has been in the news and we have been discussing it with 2 or 3 parts. For example, the red notice part, and one of the contention was that it was it is not issued because of the serious provisions of the UPA. And moreover, yesterday, G. Sai Baba, a professor in DU, who was arrested in 2017 on the basis of Naxalist ideological support to Naxalism, also qualify under this criteria, and that particular section of that UPA was, the court said that it is void ab initio and it is null and void in this case. Further, that IIT Madras and such the institutes are, in fact IIT Kharagpur are also opening new campuses at Abu Dhabi with full scale, and what is more proposed in that. So we will be talking about the democratization and the globalization of the Indian Institute and the changing perception about it. Further, another important issues, CCCI investing in WhatsApp. So Supreme Court yesterday only told that it is valid and CCI can investigate it over the privacy concerns, which nobody reads yet. It is an important news, particularly about the regulation. Now, NGT fines rupees 500 crore to the Karnataka government over the implementation, over non-implementations of the provision which was set. So we will be looking on these aspects also, where we will be trying to analyze that is the imposition of fine justified, or is it just a mere lip services? Lip services as in that you impose the fine and nobody happens after that, and we have seen that, and probably is it proportionate to the destructions that has been caused, or some kind of ad hocism is generally translated into that. So this is the part which we will try to analyze. Further, some issues which are relevant to all the sections, right? Rayata Bharosa Kendras, because it is in the news, because Ethiopian delegation is visiting such kendras. Further, SLBM, and what is the significance of this part in this case, carbon dating, GSLV, SCO-RATS. So these are the issues which are very much relevant with in context to the prelims. Moreover, this is an issue, rebuilding trust in multilateralism. A statement by the Nirmala Sitharaman in context of G20. So this is another issue which will be taken along with some question. So starting with the very first page and the very first news, which is conscious objector. So the meaning, and I am telling you the background, because why this news is why I chose to make this topic the heading. The meaning of this: a person who reasons for conscience objects to complying with a particular requirement, especially serving in the armed forces. So, especially serving in the armed forces is the part. But you see that in the hijab case, there are 2 or 3 important parts which has to be understood in this case. So the judgment was based on Bizo Emmanuel case. So exactly in this case, what happened in Kerala in way back in 1996 was that in this case, what exactly happened is that there is a community of Christians, particularly Jehovah's Witnesses. So they don't believe in the concept of God, and they believe in the concept of Bible rather. For them, the Bible is supreme, the Old Testament is supreme. And any structure, it can be state, it can be flag, and anything which has a certain connotation with the meaning of object. Any object which is to be worshipped, they generally don't do it. So it can be the state. Even for them, the state is an object. Flags, national anthems or national anthem particularly. So you see that all these issues are related with the object, and probably something which gain more proportionate importance to the Bible cannot be worshipped by them. And now this is a sect of Christianity. So largely they are they have the population all across the globes. In fact, they were persecuted by the Hitler also. Hitler persecuted them in the Second World War because they were not able to comply with the demand raised by the Hitler, or for that matter, Nazi government. So, and further, due to the region of conscience, many a person worldwide don't carry arms, yet they serve in a combat in other capacities. So they are generally termed as conscious objectives because they object on everything. Now coming back to our point, and in fact there is a very interesting movie about this Hacksaw Ridge, and it is a very good movie if you want to see and understand. I believe that it was nominated for the Oscars also. So you can see it. So in this case, 3 children was not singing the national anthem, but they haven't disrespected it. They stood up and they generally remained silent. So, and some political leader was present at that time and who saw this, and because of this, these 3 children were expelled from that particular school. It was a school which was run by the Hindu organization in Kerala, and the aforementioned father was the father in this aforementioned case was the lecturer in some universities or professors in some universities. So he approached the court. In fact, it was rejected by the High Court, but he approached the Supreme Court. So Supreme Court said that by no meaning they were not disrespecting the flag or the national anthem or the national symbol. They cannot pray to it because it is against the essential practices of their religion for them, because they belong to a particular sect, Jehovah's sect, where they were not, the practices of the religion tells them not to worship any other object. So this was the case was quoted by the dissent, the others, because we know that in hijab case there is a split verdict. Justice Gupta said something, Justice Dhali said something. So Justice Gupta, the argument of Justice Gupta was that probably in such cases everyone has to act in such a way that a uniformity can be induced in the school education or school curriculum. In this case, there is no issues of honoring the traditions, because the school or the college in the question is all girls school. So saying that the hijab is opening up the, and such other argument was made. So the argument largely was on the basis of creating a tendency towards the homogeneity. Now this is the case. The other judge says, and he quoted this case particularly, that the provisions are already laid in this case. So in this case, after the court, after the petitioner won the case, that no, you cannot you cannot just suspend the students or rusticate the student from the schools. After this case was settled, the professor, exactly what professor did was that, the father did is that, he stopped the formal education of all three children. So Justice Dhulia in this particular context said that the main concern is about the education. If the education in any manner is disturbed, and he along with quoted the, both the judges never commented anything about that hijab is essential practice of some particular, or in this case Islam or not. Largely they said that, these are the standards on which we are supposed to follow. Inadvertently, the issue of essential practices of religion was seen in this case, and we know that through various judgments that what are the essential practices, and even in 2017 there was a judgment in Sabano case that no, essential practices, even if it is there, it can be curtailed in pursuit of the fundamental rights. So in this case, inadvertently, the judge highlighted about the essential practices, because he referred to a case of a certain sect where not singing national prayer is tantamounts to hurting the essential practices. So this was the case all about. And in this case, though inadvertently, the Justice Dhulia talked about it, and he further went in to highlight that number of intersectional discrimination faced by the women along the various phases of their life, and this is the main concerns because of which he gave a dissenting note, or probably he said that the Karnataka High Court transgresses purview, and the hijab should be allowed in the college campus. But as we know, in case of split verdict, a higher bench will listen to the case, and only after that we will reach to a conclusion that what is the role of hijab in case of the overall things, particularly the essential practice of the religion, or probably this gains more importance, and there will be parallel will be drawn between Misa Amini case, the case that is ongoing in Iran, and that as well in India, because at one side we are saying that hijab should be allowed, and the other side they are against the practice of religion, hijab. So the only conclusive and balanced viewpoint will be given when there will be a judgment on the Supreme Court, because that will be the last and final line, and we are supposed to to that line. Okay, so this was all about the conscious objector, that for the region of the conscience, object to complying on very thing. And probably we have seen many cases across the world, and in fact to some extent prisoner of war is also based on this notion that you are not supposed to kill who is already unarmed. So these are the things which we have understood about this case. Now in the second case, yes, the Karmyogi, Babau to Karmyogi. So you see that largely the perception which is created in the films or across the world, that the civil servants are not up to the demands of the public, and they are not well percepted in larger picture or perspective, that they are inefficient, and particularly we have seen many cases like that. There was this recent cases where a IAS, a 1990 senior IAS commented that you should be demanding, maybe tomorrow you can demand jeans, right now today you are demanding the sanitary pads. So the demand of such nature will only increase. So somehow this is showing an inefficiency of the judges, of the civil servant, particularly in view of the public. So the Karmyogi part is giving them the technological specialization, the skill capacity to understand the larger perception of the public, and to create an awareness among the civil servant, so that they will be more responsive and empathetic to the demand of the publics. So this article highlighted many things about, that how a TT, or for that matter a police personnel in Chandigarh, came forward and helped the people who were in need, and such initiative were appreciated by the larger public on the social media. But largely the Mission Karmyogi is about capacity building, and various institutions from IIM to DOPT to Harvard and such other institutions are coming together, so that a capacity building in case of technological aspect in the service of the domain competencies should be increased. So this was all about the perceptual change and the specialization that this Mission Karmyogi will bring in the overall purview of the issues. So third part, free legal aid. So this was the exact line of argument which was highlighted by the court, that while the quality of the defense or caliber of the counsel would not militate against the guarantee to a fair trial sanctioned by the Article 21 and 22 of the Constitution, a threshold level of competitions and due diligence in the charge of his duties as a defense counsel would certainly be the constitutional guaranteed expectation. So this was the case where a person was accused of killing his wife and his 4 children due to issues, and he was awarded capital punishment. So in this case, Supreme Court just said that right now he need a trial, and because the NALSA or the free legal aid part was not that good. So in this case, the free legal part of the court has to be questioned, and the provisions such as the questions has to be questioned. So what are the data that are supporting it, and how about the overall expenditure? So we have to go into the detail to gauge the situation, because there are frequent reports whereby we have seen that the code, particularly many times the law is not that well comprehended or well versed with the provision of the law, and such other peoples are generally awarded free legal aid, generally are the empaneled as a free legal aid. In fact, a few months back, in fact, the court said that you should do more pro bono cases where eminent lawyer or a senior advocate is helping without taking any charges. So though there are provisions, but these provisions are largely lip services in nature, and basically the overall infrastructure don't support it. So there are many reports, and even we know that the 83% of the people who are still passing or still in the jails are generally from some particular communities, and backward and minorities communities. So this is the overall situation, that per capita spending on the legal aid was just rupees 0.75, one of the lowest in the world. You have to remember this, that this is 0.75, one of the, and as against this, there is a per capita spending on Australia is $23, and in a country like Argentina it is $17. Further, the average time between application for the legal aid and lawyers assigned was 11 days nationally, and in state like Rajasthan it reached 48 days. Andhra is the best performing in this case, less than a day to allocate a lawyer, and Kerala, which had a highest number of legal aid lawyers per district at 234. So this is the status, and moreover the 80% of the total litigation depends upon the legal aid, and in such cases the quality of the lawyer is also not that good. So you see that justice is not served directly, and this is why that it result in a significant pendency of the cases. Just see about it, 48 days in case of Rajasthan, 1 day in case of Andhra Pradesh, best performing state. But This is the status. So you see that, you know, the court will linger on and such other thing. Further, they are incapacitated to deal with several aspects of the issues. So what is the use of the rule of law if you are not protecting the minority, or if you are not protecting the weaker section of the society? So in this context, with this data, I just framed the question: a just society can only be defined by the protection of unprotected. In this context, analyze status of the legal aid in India. So this is the question. I believe that if you want that, some of you can write. So the structure will be that, you know, you have to highlight about the constitutional provision and as further the provisions of the legal aid, and you have to analyze these parts so that it can be strengthened across the data. So these are the issues, and only then your answer will be complete. If any of you want to write the answers, just write it, and in fact some of the provisions you can post it on the Lukman's Telegram channel. And I believe that there is a link of the Telegram channel in the YouTube video per se. Now, the other news: Unlawful Prevention Act, Activities Prevention Act. So this is in the case because you see that in the very first phase, High Court acquits jailed Sai Baba, says trial void, appeal before SC today. So it was scheduled at 11 itself. So as the case is developing, so not much is covered, because even some opposition parties started questioning the overall functioning of the government. So I'm not going into the detail of the UPA as of now, but the issues, because you know it has been quite frequently in the news, even when we were reading about Pannu, the Khalistan, the Khalistan terrorist particularly, and which was an Interpol issues. So even they said that the provisions of the UPA are arbitrary, and in this case, so we are apprehensive about issuing a red corner notice. So this was the issue. Now what are the problems? And in fact one such problem was raised by the court today itself. So you see that a vague definition of the terrorist act. Largely when we talk about the definition of the terrorism, then there is a very clear definition, not exactly clear because it varies from other to other, but you know it can be that instituted to act against the state, dividing the population and killing the population. Further, ideological support is also there. So there are largely three parameters on which the definition of terrorism defined. Here there is a very vague definition of terrorism, just hurting and killing, and though in the case of UPA the definition is not strictly that rigid, so anybody can be pursued. Further, there is a provision of denial of bail, but I believe that last year there was a judgment where such provision was controlled by the Supreme Court and said that it depends upon the court to identify that what should be the criteria for granting somebody's bail. Pendency of trial, and sometimes cases like extend to 40, 45, 50 days. State overreach, the rule of law and the pendencies are just violated. Undermining federalism, the police has, state overreach, the police has been given very much power. Undermining the federalism, in some cases, if UPA is imposed, that just negates the aspect of the overall police. So that's why it is said that it undermines federalism. And in this case, when we talk about G. Sai Baba, so the court said that the section 20, which was imposed on G. Sai Baba, was not well extended at that meaning that you cannot prosecute anyone with the section 20 of the UPA Act who just is providing the ideological support. Even that too is not stabilized. Moreover, as per the session court, which has with the 90% of the disability is on G. Sai Baba, he is physically disabled, 90% disability is there. So in such cases, it cannot be said that that he is providing you have to provide the strength, those materials or the evidences that he was supporting it. So the court just acquitted G. Sai Baba and he gave him the bail. Now a question that follows apart from that civil liberties should not be a victim of protection. National protection. Civil liberties should not be a victim of national provision. The civil liberties should be addressed first, and only after then a protection can be given. Also, sorry, the state security should be means, you know, the largely the topic will be where civil liberties can be controlled in pursuit of the security of the nation. And do you think that UPA in this case is holding its true meaning in the letter and the spirit? So this was the part that has to be highlighted in this case. Now, the next news. Yes, these were the concerns in case of WhatsApp. Just wait a minute. There was this news, so basically I haven't made a PPT, that IIT Madras tracking of the campus. So this is the first time that some of the IITs are opening an offshore campus in Abu Dhabi, particularly IIT Madras and IIT Kharagpur. So they are establishing a full course where they will be awarding the PhD degree as well as the BTech degree, and just this is showing the increasing significance of the India as an educational hub, which will be very important in the course of the knowledge economy. Yet there are some infrastructural gaps. For example, we have seen that recently that in Times Square, nearly all the IITs, nearly all the top 7 IITs just boycotted the Times Square rating, Times Higher Education rating, and the only IISc was among the top institutions. So there are some infrastructural gap, and moreover the rating criteria is not that well defined, sometimes it's manipulated. So that can be another reason for boycotting it. But and it has been going on for quite significant time, that even after such reputations, they are ranking consistently lower. So these are the issues. But the thing is that it is due to our foreign policy, and particularly the increasing awareness about the IIT campus. The offshore campus is opened up, but at the same time, some problems can be identified in this whole discourse. See, basically, such campuses are generally paid campuses, and those who can pay can join the courses. So naturally, you will understand that sometimes, significantly, it is opening up the education to commodification. So what will be the overall response of the state in this case? It has to be understood. But it is important from the perspective of that a success of the knowledge economy or the India's soft power, because you know already a knowledge economy and India's soft power, that they are opening an offshore campus in the Abu Dhabi, Middle East. So this was all about that can be inferred from that news. Now there is this news, Competition Commission of India and the privacy concerns. So what are the privacy concerns? That the new WhatsApp policy contradicts the recommendation of the Sri Krishna Committee report, which forms the basis of Data Protection Act 2019. Further, the principle of data localization is violated by the WhatsApp new privacy policy. Third, with the updated privacy policy, WhatsApp can now share one's metadata, essentially everything beyond the conversation of actual text. And probably you can analyze that what is happening even if you are not reading the actual text about your preferences, about your privacy, such other thing can be used by the WhatsApp. If user disagrees with the messaging platform's updated privacy policy, they will have to quit WhatsApp when the new terms of services are set into the effect. So largely the fourth provision was highlighted by the CCI, and they even, in fact, the Supreme Court also said that, you know, that the provision, the dominant position of take it or leave it is opening up for can open the avenues for the CCI to investigate over what will happen. The provision, you see, we all know that the WhatsApp is the most significant messaging services across India or across the world, and if the metadata, there is no privacy, the principles of localization, the control of the data is completely in the hands of the private company. So you have to see this part in the consonance with the new telecom policy, where the government is playing the role of a big brother and it wants to control any of the platforms, digital platforms. It can be WhatsApp, it can be OTTs. So both these news are developing news. The draft telecom policies, and see, there are always some positive sides of it negative side to it. So probably if we talk about draft telecom policy, then you see that some people are saying that the scale of the power of the state is very high, and they are saying that it is seemingly like the colonial act where you are controlling everything. And moreover, the issue is not that of regulation; it is more about the licensing. And as we have seen, the experiences, the moment license comes, creative autonomy and creativity decreases, and there will be so much processes. So again, it is in violation of the principles of ease of doing business and other issues. But so again here there comes a very important part, and the part is that how much should state look into regulation, that if there is an over regulation, then what can be the impact. In case of Europe, particularly Germany, due to the provisions of GDPR, the software that startup industries are not developing. So there is this quote: if the laws are grinding too tight, man becomes a syncope. Syncope means a person who cannot breathe, a zombie sort of. So liberty should be given. So in this case, it is not about licensing, that how much regulation is necessary. And if you try to analyze it, the regulation from 1947 to 1991 curtailed the creation of the scope of new industries. It was more about license and the over regulation. So the issue of regulation has to be understood. Anything can have a positive as well as negative side. So in this case, we have to look into the negative side, that the over regulations. I gave you two examples, that of the policies of the GDPR in Western Europe, and particularly Germany is not creating the scope for digital services or digital entrepreneurship growth. So this can be one of the aspects. Now, the next news, which is NGT, the National Green Tribunal has imposed a environmental compensation fine of rupees 500 crores on the Karnataka government for its failure in protecting Chandrapura Lake in Ananikal. Now, so, and probably if we follow the news, so this news of this nature is generally everywhere. So the problem and the part that has to be understood in this context can have a multifarious meaning. One, that what is the meaning of imposing such penalty? So penalty discourages anyone from polluting the environment, make the polluter considers its unlawful activities or for factors of pollution cost before embarking on a new project. That is good part. And the second part is that it just penalty acts as in compensation for communities that have suffered due to pollution, or shift the monetary responsibility of the rectifying ecological damage from the government to the polluter and thereby save taxpayers' money. But the efficacy of the principle depends upon the penalty or compensation amount and how it is administered. So this was the larger issue. But the issue that we have to understand is that, is there any mechanism to find such kind of penalty? That what is the mechanism here? In case if we just try to consider the overall Art of Living project, and we know that Art of Living created something short of program on the Yamuna bank, and the NGT just fined them 5 crore rupees. So this was the case. But according to some report and some research, the actual fine was 42 crore rupees. 42.5 crore rupees. So they created the damage to such extent. So awarding anything in something like 5 crore or something other this certainly shows a tendency towards ad hoc principles, that how ad hocism is maintained in this case. One. Two. Further, according to a report, and according to many reports, only 2% of the people pay up the fines. Only 2% of the people of the total case registered in the year 2018. And whenever the amount is very high, generally the companies don't pay it. Companies only pay it if they find that the litigation cost will exceed that of their overall day-to-day business. So probably those sugar industries and such industry where the fine of 20, 30, less than 5 crore is imposed, they generally pay it. But if it is higher than 5 crore, all such cases end up in High Court or Supreme Court, in the higher courts. So you see that even in such cases when the imposition is very high, then there is no guarantee that the companies will pay. Further, the third part, and that is also very important part, that suppose the company pays the fine. So what are the changes paid after that, or changes brought after that? That has to be understood. And in such cases, if we see that, probably for example, there was an incident in Uttarakhand wherein sugar industries polluted the Ganga basin and a fine of 5 crore was collected. A fine of 5 crore was collected. But the issue was that even after 3 years, there was no significant infrastructural improvement, or the improvement of the condition distorted was witnessed. So on all the three premises, that okay, polluters pay is the principle, but what is happening after that is more important. And in all such cases, in three domains, when the payment is low, then generally people pay, but after that there is no guarantees. And the manner in which the damages are calculated is also pertains towards the ad hocism. So the NGT fine is not acting as a deterrent so that the people can control such type of tendencies. For example, we have recently seen that the NGT has imposed a fine of nearly 3,500 crore on the West Bengal government for the creation, because of the problems in the riverbed. So you see that the mechanism that is ongoing in such cases is not clearly addressed. Next news is about Rayat Bandhu scheme. So basically, it is acting as one-to-one Rayat Bharosa Kendras, one-stop solution. It is acting as one-stop solution for everything. But and these are the things: unique seeds to seed sales, single window service centers for farmer, one-stop solution to all farmers' needs and grievances. RBK's Rayat Bandhu Kendras, Bharosa Kendras sells pre-tested quality seeds, certified fertilizers, animal feed. Farmers can purchase or hire farm equipment and even sell their produce at the prevailing MSPs in the Rayat Bharosa Kendras. And it has set all across state soil testing and recommendations on which crops are sow and quality and types of the fertilizers to be used. The state government also pays crops insurance, procure grains and make payment to the farmers through the Rayat Bharosa Kendras. RBKs facilitate interaction between farmers, agriculture scientists and agriculture extension offices right at the village level. Apart from that, new farm equipment and provide training to the farmers. So this is part all about the RBKs. But if you try to see it in the larger context, Indian agriculture was suffering from lack of lab to land or scientific application in case of farming. So this is the issue, and moreover we have seen that probably on the 4th of October when we were discussing the Indian Express, then we found that how Pakistan is doing better in case of fertilizer distributions in case of as compared to India. So RBKs has a tendency to solve all these issues. Moreover, larger component of this can be seen in the context of agricultural extension schemes, and this is the part which was highlighted by the Niti Aayog, that Indian agriculture suffers from the problem of agriculture extension schemes, and there is no part about lab to land, because there is lack of application. Uh, During the times of Green Revolution, PUSA was initiated and it acted as a scientific management tool for the agriculture. But now the people are not coming into the agriculture or agricultural studies. It is considered as an inferior trade. So such kind of interaction between private scientists and such that issues will be solved, and they will be given the advice on what to sow and when to sow the crop, the nature of the crops and such other issues. So it is creating a kind of community participations in case of agriculture, which certainly has a good bearing on the overall prospects of the agriculture, and the lack of scientific issues can be addressed in this case. Now, SLBM, successful SLBM by IAS Arihant is significant to prove new competencies and validate the SLBM program, a key element of India nuclear deterrence. See, the important part that has to be understood is that for the first time India has achieved a deterrent program from the case when compared with the so the only weakest link that existed in case of India in this program was that we are not able to highlight or find the issues of the naval issues. Now INS Arihant is tested it, and after that INS Arigat will also test it. So India has completely or achieved the triad in case of deterrence, and probably an incoming missile in the range of 750 km can be controlled or deterred. And if we try to analyze this in context of Russia or Ukraine war, whereby 90 missiles were fired by the Russians on Ukraine, and Ukraine or the Ukrainian authority intercepted 43 missiles. So this has the tendency to even stop incoming nuclear missiles. So in that context, this is important. The factual data is there. You can read it from there itself. So another news, carbon dating, because of the Gyanvapi Masjid and issues. So what is carbon dating? Is widely used method to establish the age of organic materials, things that were once living. Living things have carbon in them. So this is the method is based on the fact that carbon 14 is an isotope of carbon with an atomic mass of 14, is radioactive and decays at a well-known rate. This is how it works. The most abundant isotope of carbon in the atmosphere is C12. A very small amount of C14 is also present. The ratio of C12 to C14 in the atmosphere is almost static and is known. Plant gets their carbon through photosynthesis, animal gets it mainly through food, because plant and animal get their carbon from the atmosphere. They too acquire C12 and C14 in roughly the same proportion as it's available in the atmosphere. So this is how you analyze that, how a thing which is how many years is something is old. But the limitation is that it can be analyzed only in the range of 4,000 to 5,000 years. But apart from that, we have also the methods of potassium argon dating and uranium thorium lead dating. So uranium thorium lead dating, again these are radioactive material. Potassium changes to argon and uranium thorium. So this is how age of certain things are found in case of further GSLV. So GSLV MK3 is to launch 36 satellites of the one-wave communication constellation from the country only spaceport of the Sriharikota. Generally it's done for the UK. But the issue is that this is the first time GSLV is used as in commercial vehicle. Before that PSLV was used. India's heavy rockets is going to use for a commercial vehicle launch. Also there will be an time for rocket other than, so basically India is only the 5th country to achieve such distinctions. So you see that the space market is nearly 370 billion yearly, and it is going to increase only. So India is emerging as a commercial country where the space program can be commercialized and used. So, and in this case India is also exerting its soft power, because it can launch 36 satellites at one with GSLVs. So this is the part that we have to understood and use in the mains answer about the issues. Now SCO-RATS, Shanghai Cooperation Organization, is a permanent body of SCO and is intended to facilitate coordination and interaction between the SCO's member state in the fight against terrorism, extremism and separatism. The main function of SCO-RATS is to coordinate and information sharing. As a member, India has actively participated in the activities of SCO-RATS. India permanent membership should be enable it to generate greater understanding among the members of its perspective, and this is being done to, in case of issues of the that emerging due to the Taliban related activities. So this is the part. Now, essay topic, rebuilding trust in multilateralism. So you see that we are living in the era where the multilateral institutions are in conflict or in contraventions to the principles that itself says. We are seeing the era in which UK is failing. Sorry, UN is failing, particularly related with the issues of Ukraine or the COVID crisis. So all such other multilateral organizations are failing. So how you can build the trust? So if anybody interested in writing the essays, just write down the dimensions with some example as a comment on the YouTube channel, that what are the problems because of which there is a crisis in multilateralism, what are the issues that has to be addressed, and why multilateral organizations is being replaced first of all. So in this context, you can also show the importance of regional institutions and bilateral relationships. Moreover, what will be the consequences? Just probably in 5-6 points you can all address this and give some example, and based on that comment, probably if comment upon it, that how and where your thinking is good or where you are going wrong. So on that pretext, I will be ending the class today, and largely all the news from 14th and 15th of October is covered. Okay, so this was all about the Indian Express session today. Thanks a lot.